Recording now. All right, welcome to Track Chat episode 1. I'm Coach Pickett, David Pickett, joined alongside Hassan Stamps, the assistant track and field coach at East Tennessee State, and Kyle Stevenson, the head women's track and field coach at Georgia State University. How you doing, guys?
Wonderful, blessed.
Good, man. Just enjoying this weather outside. It's a beautiful day in the A.
Cool. Good to hear. So today, I guess we'll kick it off and talk a little bit about, our training styles and, how we approach training and, some things that we experimented with over the last couple years. So I'll let Stamps kick it off since he's the oldest guy on here.
All right. We start talking about philosophies and whatnot. I like to say that I like to think of myself as a tree, and every branch that I've grown in my experience has been the people that have either mentored me or things that I've learned on my own through trial and error. I'm a strength guy first. I like to say that I want my athletes to be able to mentally have the understanding that anything that we put in front of them, they'd be able to achieve at a high level. I want to get better technically with how I being a little bit more on it with their warm-ups. I tend to be setting stuff up on purpose. I tend to set stuff up as the kids are getting ready just to keep myself occupied. But what I've learned is I'm missing some valuable teaching moments of the warm-up to where we're trying to fix some of that stuff in their running. So I like to think of myself as technical in the sense of the events that they have to do. I honestly and genuinely spend more time technical aspects in the hurdles, in the jumping areas. When I did coach the jumps, Coach Lockhart covers the jumps here now at ETSU. So what I found myself doing this year, why I think I had the success I had in the short sprints is we kind of collectively built the model, the technical model better. Kids could talk about max velocity, the types of things that they should be doing as they're doing them. And as I was just doing a podcast prior to you guys, talking to an old high school coaching friend and the current head women's coach at McEachern High School, I think my mental philosophy is like pledge worthy. When I say pledge worthy, myself and Kyle are both members of Murder Row, Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated, and I'm not a fan of, and I think this will be a topic that we have at some point or at a point later, but I understand the marketing ploy of putting on the uniform and doing that stuff during your official visit and whatnot, but I like to think that I want our kids to earn their uniform, and it should mean something to put on the colors that the kids work hard for. So, mentally, I want my kids to come out of my process like they went into a process. And if you were a person that pledged, probably from what year you crossed, Kyle?
2009. Woo-wee. 2009.
So probably from 2009 and below, I think people still pledge. So that was a little more than 10 years ago. Not saying I'm discrediting the process for anybody else now, but it was definitely mentally tough. It was physically tough, and it was emotionally tough. So I try to prepare my athletes in my event areas to where they're a part of the track and field fraternity, so to speak. So if I just had to pick out some adjectives for my philosophy, it's strength, mental toughness, and technical accountability.
I guess I'm up next.
Yep.
For me, and I'm still very young in my coaching career. Although I have had some immediate success, I can't necessarily put a label on my philosophy, whether it be long to short, short to long, coming from this tree, that tree, whatever. Essentially, what I do, I try to do things that make sense. And that is my approach to every single athlete that I coach. What I do try to do, if I have an incoming freshman coming in out of high school, I try my best to kind of follow the parameters that they were in high school. So if it was someone that may have come from a very, strength heavy based program and they had some success, I try not to deviate much from that because their body is conditioned that way. And then also they have a level of confidence, and likeliness with that. So we may add in a little bit more speed things for them because it may be a weakness, but I don't completely try to change their makeup and what their body is used to simply because I wanted to fit into something I may personally believe is best. And then on the flip side, so if I'm dealing with someone that comes from a heavy, heavy speed background and that's what they're used to, what they're accustomed to, I don't deviate much from that. Again, I may add in a little bit more strength where I see it to be fit for them to make it work. But I will say, no matter the person, when we start off all every year, I am heavy, heavy, heavy. We are working technique. We are learning the basics all over again, whether it be paying attention how our foot is making contact with the ground in a skip. So I am very anal at practice in those early months, early weeks, early stages of trying to apply force to the ground correctly because it'll translate over into jumping later down the road or hurdling later down the road. So I think all in all, what I can say, I am a technician from day one all the way through week 40 of the season.
All right. Well, I guess I'll go ahead and, chime in a little bit. My philosophy is, first and foremost is to develop the person as a whole, invest in them, but also leave room for them to invest in myself as well. Just, making sure just kind of just building the character over time. In terms of X and O's, I'm a speed first guy. I believe you got to develop speed, but also think you got to have a balance as well. I don't think you can, spend every day working on speed. You also got to work on, coordination, endurance, obviously the weight room strength as well. But I approach it on day one. We got to accelerate. The first day of practice, day after Labor Day, we're teaching athletes how to accelerate. And then we're just tying that in, with the endurance and building the foundation as we go along. But you also find that, as you're working, technique for acceleration, technique for speed, that's also a fitness component as well because you're teaching them how to execute those movements properly or whatnot. So I kind of look at it as it kind of meets in the middle by the end of the year. So, starting with acceleration and going speed and then going speed endurance and then going either special endurance 1 or special endurance 2, depending on your event group is how I look at it. And then, in terms of the weight room, just making sure everything, matches up with what's going on the track pretty much. So everything is just compatible.
Cool. So, David, I got a question for you and Stamps because I think we see a lot of this all the time. We all, and when I'm referring to we, I'm saying like coaches globally. Like normally, we all see so much of acceleration, acceleration, acceleration. So can we right now on this call, because I remember us talking yesterday of trying to like streamline some things, we were specifically referring to cues. Can we right now kind of come up with our own definition? What is acceleration? What does it look like? How can we validate that we're teaching an athlete to accelerate properly or that they're even executing that skill properly?
I would say, utilizing the form charts of the acceleration ladders that are pretty much, everybody has them. What a lot of people don't know is as Tom Tellez gifted that to Vince Anderson, and Vince Anderson tested it out on us, wickets and acceleration ladders came from the Tennessee program. Like a lot of people don't know that or understand the historical significance to us going through wickets that were almost 12 inches, initially 12 inches metal. And I still got shin marks from where Vince had us sprinting into the drop in. And I mean, you're talking about life and limb stepping over that knee, or you just gonna eat the ground. So acceleration as it should be standardized is zero to I honestly think 0 to about 20 to 25 meters. I'm somewhere there, not quite 30, because even Justin isn't there's no more, forward angle of his drive, more so his head's down, that lasts like between like 25 and 30 meters. So I genuinely think this past year I spent more time saying, guys, if our first 5 contacts can be like an airplane, not a helicopter, we're going to be in a better position than we ever were. And since I burrowed into their head those first 5 contacts, it led into the best indoor 60s that I've had in the history of the time that I was at TSU. So I think, being able to open up the gates to give the acceleration ladder program and process, some coaches have it, some coaches don't. And, to know where every step is supposed to be incrementally, because ultimately it's math. This person has the time, energy, and effort to figure it out. It can all be extrapolated from the fact that, the world record is 9:58, right? Over 100 meters. You can do the math and say, what if a person's running 9:58, every contact had to be X amount. It's math. So, some people don't understand it is as simple as that. So I'll stop my my statement on acceleration. To me is, the 0 step to about 20 to 25 meters, and getting kids to understand that pushing dynamics, even though feels slow, benefit, beyond the 30 to like 60 meters, where I would go.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. I think it's, especially that ladder you were talking about, those first couple steps, and, as you progress the ladder out down the track, of course, 25 meters, 30 meters or whatnot, I think you can tell if the athletes, stop pushing or whatnot. That was huge for us this year when we put the ladder down. I spoke to y'all about it and everything about Vince's ladder, and it kept them honest. If they were not, where they needed to be at, it's like, okay, you did this, back on step 2 or 3, you were already behind because this happened on the 0 step or whatnot. So, that was definitely a valuable thing that I used this year, especially with JJ a lot.
Well, and accountability wise states that they as sprinters don't always inherently know that they stop pushing.
Mm-hmm.
The greatest gift that I kind of figured out over the course of my years coaching, that a person thinks they're pushing just because they got their head down, or just because they're attacking the ground. But then when you got a functional mean and measure and a point to say, no, you were actually here, and then they go back and do the second one, and you can see them take a little bit longer time, put a little bit more force, and now it's right, and then they like, oh, okay, I feel the difference.
Yeah, and I was actually listening to something on Vince was talking about a couple of days ago, was talking about how athletes, they'll say, well, coach, I could have ran this. I stoned out the blocks or whatnot. And Vince was talking about how you hear that excuses a lot. And he said the reason why you stumble is because you let your shoulders drop or whatnot, and you didn't execute. You took yourself out of the entire run. So I think it's just, holding the athletes accountable and say, hey, you have to execute these steps in order to do this in the end of the race.
All right. So I agree with you both. So also what I'm getting at is, so not to call anyone out, but we all have these athletes that everything you just said, I understand it, but it's going to go over probably half of my team's head, So what are some things that you may say on a regular, I know for me, I always like to use the analogy of just going from 0 to 60. So majority of my athletes have driven a car, at some point of their life. So they know to go from a dead start, and they can watch the meter go from 0 up to 50 or up to 60, and understanding that process. So that is something that I always try to speak on and maintain and keep it the same across the board. But in regards to the acceleration ladder specifically, it's something that I always try to introduce every single year. What I did this year, I actually removed the set pattern from Vince, and we were able, because our groups were so small, we went with a natural acceleration pattern of our athletes. So for me, coaching young women, on average, about the first 3 steps initially, my young ladies will be covering anywhere from 4 to 5.5 feet. So we worked on just the initial 10. And what I would do, I saw there was about a 3 inch to about 5 inch increase after step 3 and 4 for everybody, like just trial after trial after trial, to where I put down their own tape marks and would cue them to push in front of it. So like if you're looking down at your big toe right now, you put the tape across your toes. So me saying in front is like on the side closest to you. So that's what we would cue them to do with their own natural acceleration pattern, trying to create consistency and symmetry on each side. And we saw our acceleration get a lot better. Not to say that it's the end all be all, but there was a way where I said earlier, no, I don't necessarily have this one specific approach. I try to do things that make sense. But that's me taking the science that's been handed down to us, you know what I'm saying? And then the artist side of, each person is made differently. Like I'm 5'5" on a good day, but I was able to run 10:29. There's another guy, he's maybe 5'10" or 6'2", and he's only been able to run 10:29. But I know for sure at some point in time, I'm not covering, 7 feet, 7 to 8 feet per stride, and he may be, you know.
I think it goes back to what we're all talking about is what is connecting the dots for you guys. What I've what I do routinely do with my kids is say, listen, I know you're ready to run fast when the more difficult ladders become a little easier. I knew Nicole was gonna run fast because she was on top of me a little bit ahead from a standing start on the 11-1 lap. So I was like, woo! I said, we're gonna do something. But as soon as I bring the blocks out, she kind of fall off to 11-3, 11-4 ladder. But if you're running 7:39, you're 11-3, 11-4.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they started to understand, and unfortunately we didn't get to bridge the gap because of the pandemic and everything. But they were like, oh, so this ladder really isn't telling me anything wrong. If I'm on it and killing it and murdering it, then that's a confidence builder. So I try to tell them every time, you guys don't worry about the rungs of the tape. Let me watch that as a coaching tool for me. I just need you guys to apply as much force as you can, understanding that the whole goal is to not only have the stride frequency, but to have the stride length. I didn't get to it yet, but I went and got construction paper in these rolls. You can get them at Lowe's for $11, and it rolls out. I think we did it when you were there, Kyle.
Mm-hmm.
But you put it down between 45 and 60 meters, because that's where their fastest at, and then you can see off the clicks within the paper what they're at max velocity. And we know that the bigger marks are coming once we can say, okay, well, we should do this once a month, and everybody should do it once a month, because from their right foot to their left foot, you measure, like you said, from the big toe to the big toe. Once you've got an increase, you're getting better. And obviously, I don't think all increases are exponential. Eventually, you're going to plateau because you don't always continue to get better. But being able to meticulously, what I want to be able to do next season is meticulously denote our links and measures of things, because I think this year I had explained to my kids one day, they're like, Coach, sometimes it seems like you make up the workout on the fly. And I'm like, I'm not lying, but I'm at that point now that I've done this 17 years. Once I see what you guys have warmed up, once I see what I have on paper, and you're either not going to achieve it or going to achieve it, then I already got to position something different. Like I'm in my Jay-Z, like I don't write nothing down as much anymore. So I'm able to say, hey, this is what I know we need. If you can do it at this level, then you go through this. This group, how do you feel? Are you ready to go really? No. These kids say, I feel really good. Okay, well, y'all are going to run hard. I feel like this. You guys are going to pull the sled today. Like I've gotten into a more flexible training theory solely because day to day, everybody's not on the same zone. That's just shown the success. I mean, that's just shown that, I think I definitely have a deep understanding of what training theory is, but being able to go back and record everything and make sure that, we're doing measures. I bounced around a little bit this year to say, hey, let's do this, let's do this, let's do that, and there's a commonality in it. But I'm gonna stick to more regimented things until we shift and make something else. So whether it's 6x200 or 8x200, until you accomplish it the way that I want to accomplish it, that's just what you're gonna see.
Right.
And then we'll move on to the next thing once you get there.
So for both of y'all, because I think you had a guy go 6'6" this year, right?
Yep.
And then Stamps, I think you had 3 young ladies run 7.5 or better.
I did.
So what I needed, my fastest girl this year was 7.68, I believe, 7.68, 7.69. So I'm one of the coaches. I'm on the other end. I'm on Tifers. I see what y'all got going on. Give me what you think would be your secret sauce. What was your secret sauce this year to like cracking those barriers?
David, you go first.
Honestly, just staying healthy. It was the first year JJ Sherman was healthy.
David, shut up. Tell us the workouts that JJ did.
Exactly.
You was about to go crazy. This is what we're here for, dog. Man, staying healthy. Yeah, we got to stay healthy, Donkey Kong.
That's part of it. That's part of it, though. That's part of it. I'm getting to it. All right, we'll skip it. All right. So we just did a lot more max speed work this year. Honestly, he was healthy enough to do it.
What does max speed work for you?
4x60 with 7 to 8 minutes rest. So full recovery.
He couldn't do that last year?
He couldn't do it last year because he was banged up. So just going through the phases, stride length, stride frequency. Making sure he's executing it.
Give us another workout. 4x60, 7 minutes rest. Got it. Give me one more.
80, 70, 60.
All right, so and I'm asking, I'm telling you, I'm getting the good. So how long am I prescribing this? How far out from whatever meet am I prescribing this? Like, I need to know.
So we built up to that point. So week of January 11th, went to UAB. We did some technical stuff first week back. He raced 2.6s at UAB. So we kind of used that as speed work that week just because he was getting back, of course, and I haven't seen him in a while. The next week, we started to kind of build on that a little bit, and we focused more between like 30 and 40. Well, he raced again at South Carolina, ran 160 there. And then the third week, that's when we loaded with the 460s. So over time, we kind of built based off like what he was doing in the races. So, 260s one week. The next week, he'll do 360. So that's 180 meters worth of volume. And then the following week, he'll do 460. So that's 240 meters worth of volume. So we just stacked. And then we just gradually, obviously, came off the load a little bit, tested, see where his maximum speed was before we progressed it out to short speed endurance. He ran 668 at South Carolina when he was supposed to. So still we're pretty heavy in the weight room. We were working between 70 and 80%. So, he's got to stay strong in the weight room. He's got to keep his max strength levels up.
Okay.
I got it.
I ain't gonna say oddly, but masterfully, I ended up doing a very similar thing with my ladies. We routinely get to a point to where we're doing 4x60, 5x60, and you know how the dome is set up, Kyle and even David. We'd start. I'd have them come out of the curve so they had a little bit of that slingshot from like where the pole vault area is, a little bit past like the door down there by the end where the finish line is for the 60. And they'd walk all the way around the track and come back. So within that time, it's about 6 or 7 minutes. And, you know, we be cranking out. I got to the point to where handheld, I'm the type that I don't go off their first move. I go off the first footed contact that they have on the ground, because that's always standard for me. And then I do the foot past the line. And when Nicole went 89, and I was like,
that can't be right.
what? And then she did it again, it was like 692. I said, oh snap. And she's about to go crazy, because all I do is compare that to my guys. Unfortunately, I have a few guys that are 7-0 and 7-1. So they were running 6.6s and 6.7s. And I'm like, oh snap. So that means she's 7.2 or 7.3 on a great day. So I draw a lot of parallels of being able to have the capacity to coach both men and women at ETSU. And plyometrics. The plyos that Coach Lockhart kind of brought to the table with the stuff after the weight room. Like I think actually our biggest gain this year was how the weight room ended up evolving, because we ended up just genuinely having like more people. So, you know, doing our weight room stuff, we had, you know, we looked at it in years previous. There'd be the sets and the reps, 3x5, 3x3, 3x2, 3x1, whatever. And we realized that, you know, once we kind of gave people the free for all to know what their weights were, here's your folder, you know, go do the work, like people just drag their feet. And what we did was we put people in like groups through the first month of test, or through the first month before we got to testing, so we could put like-minded individuals with like-minded individuals, or like-weighted individuals with like-weighted individuals. And we used a time frame dynamic versus a set in reps. So early on, we started with 15 seconds, 10 seconds, and 5 seconds. So week 1 was 15, week 2 was 10, week 3 was 5, and then we tested the 4th week. 15 seconds is too long, because then you're somewhere around 9 to 10 reps of stuff. So then we kind of curtailed that to like 13 seconds, 9 seconds, and around like 6 seconds. And that just really was a sweet spot for us, because, you know, you were getting the same metric or measure of like 5 to 6 reps in week 1 for 13 seconds, 4 to 5 in the 9-second round, and then 2 to 3 in the 6-second round. And everybody's strength levels went up. We had eyes glued on us every time our women have been max. I mean, I had women squat 315 for the first time, and I'm talking about full depth. I had women in bench press. I got 2 women that are over 175 in bench press. We have 3 young ladies that can power clean 160 or more. So what we kind of found is that, you know, we count down, or, you know, people are in their groups. They're engaged, so they don't really have a chance and opportunity to sit down. You know, if there's 4 people per platform, you know, they do their 13 seconds, the next person does their 13 seconds, the third person does their 13 seconds, and then by the time the fourth person is up, they rested almost, you know, a minute and a half, and they're ready to go. I honestly think that was a cheat code that we had, because just all of our strength numbers were better than they've ever been.
All right. I took my notes.
Yeah, I would also say cues. Cues were huge this year. Something I had to brush up on a little bit. I thought, you know, just telling him what, you know, it should, you know, feel like, what it should look like, the type of movements he should be executing in order to achieve, you know, the goals he had in mind.
What cue you think resonated with JJ the most for him to achieve what he achieved?
Fast hands.
We start documenting cues that we think work. Lay them out.
I would say being big in acceleration, big movements, and then fast hands in the middle of the race to get his feet down.
Okay.
I got it.
What about you, Coach KY? What are your go-to cues for acceleration mechanics?
So hammer. So we either hammer down or break the ground. Like those are the two. Because I'm really trying to emphasize, like if I'm sitting there trying to explain it, I try to tell all of my young ladies that if you have a hammer in your hand and your foot is the nail, we want to drive that nail completely through the ground and make it flat in one swing. So I'm always saying like hammer, hammer, hammer all the time.
Okay. I've used both of those before, and obviously I think there's a place for all of them. And if coaches consistently can say those things, big amplitude of movement, fast hands in the middle of the race, because everybody knows where the middle of the race is. That's a 6 meter athlete. Hammer nail, like I've said that your foot is the hammer, the ground is the nail. You know, you wanna try to push. I even use your old throwback one. Put your soul in every stride.
Yeah, you gotta put your soul into it.
So being able to kind of functionally gift these cues for what we feel work, we need to say that. So going forward, I'm going to use hammer nail and big amplitudes of movement, fast hands in the middle of the race, and see what next year gifts us.
All right, cool. So everybody can teach somebody how to start. What makes your athlete strong?
Well, it depends on the type of or the part of the race.
Mm-hmm.
Because you don't have to have massive weight room numbers in order to run fast. You gotta know how to apply force correctly.
Let me make this more thought provoking then. So let's bring the common battle. All right, coach. So we got 2 quarter milers right here on the call right now. Well, coach, I'm like, I'm a sprint quarter miler, Well, coach, I'm a strength quarter miler, So I'm sure like we all have like our go-tos or like our philosophies. So, and I know like I want you pick it, like pull out your workout that you've seen, like it works, and I know I got mine, and I'm sure Stamps has his, so that let's make it more. I want to really push that envelope. What's your workout that makes your athlete strong?
In a race or a start, like in the weight room?
No. So we're past acceleration. So JJ, because I mean we're familiar with JJ.
What event?
All right, so let's take a JJ that wouldn't normally, his barrier was to break that 21-second barrier, hit that 20 point.
Yeah.
So speed endurance may have been, something that he really needed to improve.
Yeah.
What was your go-to like strengthening workout?
Well, I mean, first would be 150, 120, 90, and then we would progress to like 180, 150, 90 or something like that, and then we'll go up to like 250, 180, and maybe a 150, depending on how he looked after the 180.
What was the rest of recoveries on those things?
So somewhere between 8 to 10 minutes, maybe 12. For the 250, probably go about 15 minutes or so. Just depends, because some of my experience, sometimes the nervous system, it'll cool down like after 10 minutes. So I don't want them to, just be sitting around for 10 minutes. So it depends on the athlete and how fast they run. So the people that come more from a strength side, they like to, get in and get out. People that are more, speed oriented people like more recovery.
Got it. So
if they come from a strength side, we probably gonna run at 90% effort. If they come from a speed side, we probably gonna definitely run 95% or better.
I would say I really like 2 sets of 4x150. And the thing I tried to get them to do was know that there was only going to be about 6 to 7 minutes of recovery, but they had to do their best to be between 20 flat and 20-50 for my women. And then the other go-to, the year that Katrina, Kyra, and Kiana almost went 1, 2, 3. They went 1, 3, 4. I was on this turnaround kick. So I really like the 200 turnaround, to where you run, you try to run about, if it's a 24-second kid, you try to get them to run 26, 13 to 13, rest 60 seconds, and then just whatever it is, rest 15 to 20 minutes, come back and do it again, rest 20 minutes and come back and do it again. I had my best indoor performance that year when I stuck to that regimen of like turnaround 200s, because them, an athlete that learns how to run in lactic acid is really good for the 200. I didn't do as many of those this year because I allowed myself to not necessarily be talked out of it, but I didn't have to keep. I'm the kind of, I've gotten to the point to where I'm not gonna. I want to try to find the workout that I'm gonna get the best result, knowing the kid that I have. And anytime I'd say turnaround stuff, I think we did it once. It was so bad, I was like, I ain't fooling with it again. But I know how beneficial it is, and I think I allowed myself to be talked out of doing something as painful as that because they attitudes.
Yes. Well, Pickens, I got to talk about mine. So this is my
1 minute.
baby.
We got to do a part 2.
Okay. So this is my baby, and it's for your quarter milers or your 200 runners. But this is my baby. I've used it at two different programs now. A variety of athletes, a variety of types. It gets the job done. And I do it twice a year, once in the fall, and I bring it back in the spring, like late spring. And for the record, I think